Hello everyone, so today I want to talk about interview questions. So a lot of times I think when we go for interviews, we think it's like them interviewing us, but really it's the other way around. We're also interviewing them to see if the company, the role, the culture, the people is just a good fit for us. So there's a lot of types of questions you can ask, and I know a lot of people kind of ask like very surface level questions when they're kind of put on the spot, or they just think about like, oh, can you tell me about your experience, which is a good part to start at. But a lot of times, like, you want to really see how is it truly like. So there's particular questions that I like to ask to really get that information and see if it's a good fit for me. Some context is that, like, I've been looking for opportunities out there. I'm kind of open to anything at this time. But if I'm looking to go into product management, I do want to be in an environment where I'll get a lot of support and growth opportunities. So I had to ask a few questions on this to make sure that this is an environment I will thrive in. So sometimes it's actually going to be about how much support will I get? What are the metrics, or what are the things that they're looking for me to do? Especially at a startup, like they are probably coming in with a mind of like what you're trying to do. Like maybe they want you to grow a product, or maybe they want you to break into an industry. There's a lot of different things that once you get this information, you can kind of either help yourself improve the interview process by tailoring your future answers to future questions from your past question information, or in general just to see if it's a good fit for you. So I think this is crucial because I am going to break this up between company, role, and experience, and I want to go through the questions as to why I would ask them, what to look out for. And the first one I'm going to start off with is company. I honestly don't have that many things about the company. This one's going to really vary based off of the types of companies you're looking for, but these are going to be very generic kind of questions that you can ask. And the one is like, what are some big changes that are heading this company's way? So if you're a startup, this could be very important because maybe they'll say like, oh, we're heading towards services industry, or we're heading towards expanding really rapidly, or we just got Series E funding. What are we going to do about that? Then it could really be something that's really important to understand for the future. Then another thing that I personally care about is how's the diversity of the company. And then you also want to see how they actually analyze this, because if they say, oh, there's good male, female, or maybe they say like, oh, there's good LGBT community, or that they say that there's like a whole diversity with the leadership, it's pretty flat when it comes to startup. But if it comes to like a bigger consulting firm or a bigger company, they might tell you a little bit more about their actual DEI initiatives. And I think it's really important to adjust, because this one can really tell you, like, if you're a person of color, this can give you an idea of like what they value, not even like what their answer is, but like how they're saying it, what they're personally saying. Because a lot of times it could be like less so about inclusion, more so here's what we plan on doing, or here's what we want to do. But like not the terminology they're using means this is what we want to do, but we have not done it yet. Or that like they're not talking about bringing people up to leadership, they're talking about volunteering or donating. Like that's not going to be enough. And then a lot of times, like, my questions actually pertain a little bit more to the role and experience. So I'm going to have a lot more questions here. So for the role, the first question I usually ask is, how are the teams structured and what is their role at the company? And this is a really important question for me. Like, let's say, for example, I'm trying to break into product management and I haven't done it before. I've done like the things and elements of it. So I want to know how it's like in a real tech company. So a lot of times if you do this, you can see, are you going to be the only one? And I've definitely interviewed where they never had a product manager before. This would be the first one. So that's not a good environment for me. Another one could be like, maybe they have only engineers working on this and they're going to be hiring from within. Then you may be like, okay, well, now we know that there may be like some kind of stretch thin with the business side, maybe more on the tech side. Or another thing would be like if they have offshore teams, so all of their developers on offshore teams. So there was a question that I did end up asking once I heard about that, was like, will I be working in those hours? Because if product managers have to work with the engineers, like how am I going to work with that? I would like have to either work their hours or they work my hours. So then that's a conversation that you also want to have. So a lot of this can be really important to see, like who you report to, like who are you going to be working with directly. They might be saying the sales team, the marketing team. Maybe you're also going to be product marketing, which generally would be another team of its own if you're in a bigger startup or in a bigger company, but you could also be doing that yourself. So there's a lot of different ways that you can see this, and it's really important at a startup to ask the kind of question, but also in a bigger company too. Like, how many teams are you working with? Like, how siloed are you going to be? Another one is like, how do you see this role evolving? And if you are the first person in this role, then this is going to be something that's very important. Or if they see that like something within their business is going to grow, and then there's going to be more product managers or more consultants, and maybe they're looking for strategically people in this area, that's what they're going to be doing. Or maybe they're even going to change their business plan. Like, instead of targeting marketing, financial services, they're going to go for all. And that's something that they're going to plan on doing later on. So asking this kind of question could be important to see like where your role could be if you were to see if it agrees with what you're going for. So maybe you said like product managers are looking for someone that's more technical, and then they're going to eventually break it off into business product manager. Then maybe if you want to stay in technical, then you can say that you want to do more the technical side. So that is something to mention, because then it can really dictate like your path at the company. Another one is like, what are your growth opportunities within the company as this role? And this could either mean like, are you going to be owning another product? Are you going to be in consulting too? Could be like, how is the lateral transferring process? Can you go to other industry verticals? Can you do other projects? Or maybe in general, like, can you just jump without caring? And a lot of times, like the way that they respond, and it also depends on who they are, because like maybe if they, and I usually go on their LinkedIn and I see what they're doing and their path before this role, and I can learn a little bit more about like what they're looking to do in their description on LinkedIn and see what their personal job prospects are, and then ask from there. It could be a little bit difficult if you are a startup, if like the person interviewing you is the startup founder or CEO, then it could be a little bit difficult, because then they're going to be a little bit skewed because they own the company or they are the leader. But if they're not, then you can be a little bit more transparent. Go on like their LinkedIn and say like, oh, I saw you came from the hotel industry and now you're in financial services. Why is that? Or like, is this something that you're looking to do? Are you looking to explore other industries? And this is where you ask a little bit more about them. And then try to bring it back to you and say like, oh, I'm also looking to break into the financial industries. This is something that you can do at this company, or maybe about the role or programs that they have. Ask about how the role is going to evolve, and also the actual career growth opportunities too. Maybe it's like mostly vertical. Maybe they're flat all the time, and then you're just going to be staying there in a stagnant way. Maybe you're just going to be owning more products, or you're going to have more pods and teams. Think about that. The other one is like, what would you want this role to focus on in the first 3 months, half year, maybe whole year? And this is a good way to see like what your job will look like in the next 3 months or so after you accept the job. And this is important to see, because like a lot of startups, they have big plans for this. Like that's the reason why they're hiring, or maybe they're just trying to fill in a spot. And a good thing is like, maybe if they don't really have like any big plans, it's probably because that the person that was before left, and that was the reason, as opposed to like this role just opened up and it was growth related. And that actually leads to the next question, which is, why are you hiring for this role? A lot of times you can kind of see this, because sometimes they say, oh, we're growing and we're looking to expand, or be a little bit more scalable, or that they say like, oh, we have a lot of engineers but not enough product managers, so we want to focus on that. Or they might even say that like, we're trying to expand into this area and we need more people, like let's say Workday. Maybe they don't have enough Workday people and you are Workday, and that kind of stuff. So this is really important to see, because if they're leaving, then you can kind of see that information. If they sound like, oh, they left, or maybe they go somewhere like, oh, they went on maternity leave and never came back, then you can kind of see a little bit about like how that company deals with maternity leave. So really analyze their problem and then the reason why, because that can really open up to a lot of reasons. And you can even use this as a way to negotiate. How long has this role been open? If they've been looking for someone for a very long time, and maybe it's been a year, and you're like, you can use that as a bargaining chip. Like, you know, you want me, so let's make this work. And then you can negotiate. I'm not a pro in negotiating anyway, but I know some of the tactics. I just need to practice them myself. And then another one is like, what are the metrics that this company is going to be using for my role? And a lot of times could be good for performance ways, but also to see like what the company actually values. So maybe for product, like the actual metrics would be like ROI, that whatever money you're coming in, like how much are you getting out of it? Another one could be like, are you breaking into the new industry? And what maybe it's adoption rate. And then you can kind of see like what kind of focuses this particular role or this company has on your role and what you need to do to get forward. So it could be performance related, maybe related to your bonus, or it could be very specific to like understanding what they're looking for from this role. And if you have any idea on this, like this could also be used, leveraged for your salary negotiation to say like, oh, I've had experience doing this, and this is like a metric that they care about, that they really care about. And then you could say like, this is the kind of value I would bring to your company. You could probably increase your pay there. So now going into experience, I have a few questions here, just really 3 questions that I generally ask around this time. The first one is like what everyone's going to be asking is like, what are the company's thoughts on going on site, hybrid, or remote? And this is pretty important at this time because everyone's thinking about that. And it could be pretty interesting to see because a lot of times you have to say like, am I going to be commuting? And like, what if I'm going for a role that's in California and I'm in New York? Does that mean that like I'm going to have to fly there? Is that something that they're flexible of? This could also be something that you can say like, hey, maybe during salary negotiation, like I want to do remote, 100% remote, but maybe I'll come like once a month, and then that could be your kind of negotiation. So think about that. Having that idea is an idea of like what you could leverage with what you have. And it could be something that you can negotiate, not necessarily monetary related, but it would be something you can. Another one was like, what makes a successful employee at this company? And this is successful employee, not successful at this role. So this is very important to see, what does the company actually value? Is it going to be like maybe collaborative? Is it going to be someone who always thinks about ahead of the game? Then you kind of have an understanding of, do you fit that? Does the values actually fit? Because if maybe you don't fit that, then you may actually struggle there long term. I mean, a lot of times like you're probably going to be looking to go short term anyways, just for that monetary jump. But if you do actually prefer to stay long term there, then that's something to think about, is like, do you fit with the values of what they're going for? And then the last one is like asking for fun, like about their experience. And it's like really like, what's your least or favorite part about your job or your experience here at the company? And that could be really important to see, like, what are they saying? And then really try to dive deep. You could ask follow-up questions about like, oh, you know, like maybe their least favorite is also your least favorite. Now you may be like reevaluating. And I actually did bow out of an interview process because I heard someone who said that their least favorite part is something that I'm not looking for in my next company. So that was something to really look for. And you want to do this throughout the interview process, because even like the recruiter too, maybe someone says like their least could be, the diversity could do better. And then the other one could be like, oh, you know, like maybe the responsibilities are too siloed, or maybe there's not that much room to grow, or maybe they just don't like the client work itself. So you want to be very analytical with like what kind of responses they're giving and the motivation behind that. So a lot of these questions I think are really good to kind of get a deeper lens into what the experience is going to be like. They're not directly asking like, tell me everything. But it's also great to be able to network outside, to find someone that is in the company that's not directly related to your interview process, and then ask them as well on like how it's truly like. That is also a really good way too. And I've actually been able to do that, and I said no to a few interview processes because I did that groundwork, and I saved my time and I saved their time. So if you have any questions at all about any what I said, or if you have any questions that you would want to actually ask in an interview, leave them down in the comments below, because I'm curious myself, and also maybe the viewers that are watching this video would also benefit from them. Thank you so much, and see you guys next time. Bye!